Hi everyone, welcome to Switch 2020, Innovation Made Real for Cybersecurity. I am May from TNB Ventures, and we are bringing you this session from CoSpace Park. As you can see, I am standing against this beautiful background, which is the event space in CoSpace Park, where the CSA Cybersecurity Innovation Day and BCA Built Environment Accelerate to Market Program Demo Days took place this year. As a joint venture with TNB, CoSpace Park encourages innovation to take place within and out of Science Park 2. Today, we bring to you a special session on cybersecurity, where we have one of the thought leaders in this space, Prof Yu Chien Siang, Chief Innovation and Trust Officer of Amaris.AI, to discuss the uncertain future of innovation. Professor Yu Chien Siang is a Singapore Cybersecurity Hall of Famer and has over 38 years of cybersecurity experience. He enjoys fusing cybersecurity and artificial intelligence to innovate multiple products for Amaris.AI. His interests are in transparent security, confidential computing, and utilizing artificial intelligence in cybersecurity. In his spare time, Professor Yu imparts his knowledge to the younger generation at Singapore Institute of Technology and National University of Singapore. Hi, Prof Yu, good morning. Thank you for taking the time out today with us to discuss the future of innovation and impact in the area of cybersecurity. Let's talk a little bit about the current cybersecurity industry. How was it like in the past and how is it now?
Thank you, May. Yeah, I'm so privileged to be now invited to this event. And I think that's a very good topic and it's very fantastic questions, right? What is it like in the past and what is it now? Okay, right. I think we are now living in very exciting times. Many things, as you know, from the COVID pressures and the transformation and the big push for digital transformation, which we call digitization, and Singapore having the smart nation drive, right? We now are in the best of time, but interestingly, we also have some of the very latest developments not quite affecting and sort of like you see somewhat like a disconnect, you know, right? So in the past there's a trajectory, a very nice trajectory, and then you would have problems, new malware, new attacks, and so on. Then you have the countermeasures been now pushed out, okay, right? And now maybe because of the COVID and the major disruption in the business models and how everybody could not go out and do business as normal, we now have a break in this continuity, right? So what actually is happening, we have never seen something like this ever before, right? So what is dramatically happening is that it is almost akin to everybody thinking deeply about what are we going to do to change cybersecurity and this terrain, okay, right? Adapting to the new norm, okay? And at the same time, planning, okay? What is it that the companies will want to buy? What do the users, the consumers will need, right? In the midst of enhanced cybersecurity threats, right? So we all know that there are now many more attacks due to COVID, right? You have more ransomware, you now have more people working from home, and then the attacks are coming in directed at the staff and the employees because they have been cut off from the enterprise security. So there is now a weakness that the attackers are now exploiting, and they are busy at it. So, well, the good news is that they don't have to do new tricks, okay? So they halted. We don't have to advance the state of art to subvert you, okay? Because now you have opened up and everybody's all distributed, and then I can now get you through the mobile phones. I can handle maybe the WhatsApp type attacks, and then I can confuse you, and so on and so forth, right? So in that space, a lot of things are happening, right? But however, the reset moment is such that it is so new, and we now get basically the enterprise security not knowing exactly how to cope with this because the employees are outside of their protection and their parameters, right? So they have not found maybe good ideas, and it takes some time to adjust to this norm. So we now see a lot of, you can say a little bit like a suspended animation, right? So many things have changed in the attack technology, in the offensive side, and also, in fact, new security defenses are are there. So you have like zero trust, there are new cryptography, there are new blockchain capabilities, there are many, many new things that are there, but we are now in a state of suspended animation, right? So, but before the people could react and then sort of like adjust to the new norm, now you have new attacks coming in the form of AI. And the AI are now deployed in the enterprises. So you now have got genetic algorithms that are generating new 0 days, GANs, which we have been actively pursuing, and we are able now to show, due to maybe the CS14 innovation challenge that CSA has given us, right? So we are actively carrying out this research on adversarial attacks, and we now are able to generate new forms of 0 days. So new things are happening, but the mitigation is frozen, right? Now, what I see is most challenging is actually a leadership problem, because there are so many things happening, and the CISOs are busy, and they are also disconnected from their normal meetings, right? So they now need to not only respond, but actually have to present action formats in new ways, right? And maybe they have to create a kind of a new collaboration, which we have never seen before, in the sense that we need to track new things, and then what is then the evaluation of whether these new countermeasures will work, right? So I think fantastic, right? So we are really in the what you call best of times and worst of times, right?
Right. Do you see that this times is only happening like right now, or like it will get even more challenging in the next few years to come?
Yes, I see it as getting much more challenging, because the COVID situation is not going to go away. Okay, it would probably take another 2 years before people come back to normal, right? And we see a problem of funding, right? Now, because of the funding issue, there is a reset moment, and the reset moment is, let us look through what we have done in the past. And in the past, we have invested in, say, firewalls, and we invested in anti-malware and so on. So the question is that, do they still work, right? And obviously, the parameter is now broken. Your firewall that could have been very expensive is not working at work from home, right? And the malware may not be, anti-malware may not be running on your staff's machine, because they may be using any kind of notebook that they have, okay, their own systems, right? So it is a planning opportunity to see what should we do, what has worked, and what will work now, okay, right? And then the drive to save money, to save costs, and so on, I think it's going to be relentless, because the businesses have stopped. Some of the revenue are no longer continuing, and it has affected maybe like 80% of the economy, right? Whether you are directly affected in F&B, or you are in airline, etc., you can say that quasi everyone's affected, and then the side effects with that is spilled over to cybersecurity programs and initiatives. So I see that it is very challenging, but the reset moment now is a rethink, a new paradigm shift, right? And the shift would be really, it's a moment for deep discussion. It's not just a moment for deep tech. We now need deep innovation for problem solving in the new space of the new norm, right? And the new norm is dynamic, so it changes with time. And so you now, for instance, you couldn't do work from home, but those who couldn't work from home, and then if they are at home, and at home, everybody's now huddled at home, right? The adult children, the mom that is now working, everybody's there, right? There's not enough rooms, and then when they talk, okay, right, they actually interfere with each other. So, but they cannot go to a co-working place, okay, right? Then we need a new type of co-working space, right? But the government allowed you to actually rent a HDB room, okay, right? And then all these now becomes a rental business. Is now stay in outside of your house, but at the same time, this is now the workplace, right? So you rent a room, okay, to work. So this is all new, and you will see now that what would then people do? So for instance, the cold space park, perhaps they would need to implement a new type of dynamic, reliable, software-defined security system for the code-based part, right? So you may have 5 people working, then tomorrow it can be 50 people working, no? Right? But yet they are huddled together and they're part of a network. And then you could have actually a virtual event that running for 5,000 people, but need 50 people to support, right?
Right.
And they need to be physically together, right? So we see new businesses, new opportunities, but importantly, you need new ways of solving problems, right?
Yeah, that's very right. For closed-space part, that is something that we're experiencing right now. In this challenging environment, these are some of the real challenges that we see. So what do you think like other kind of businesses or enterprise can also do to overcome all these real experiences and challenges?
Yes, absolutely. I think the key word is that many of the traditional projects are no longer moving, right? And so because they're not moving, and now people going through how to save lots of money, not just small amount of money, no, right? So they are looking at some cases they'll be like reorganizing their staffing, looking at more dynamic allocation of resources. So instead of dynamic rental like CoSpace, no, right? I think they are also looking at how the uncertainty should be sort of like factored into business decision making, and so that you have more flexibility in terms of not only running new business models, but at the same time to cope with sudden surprises like black swans coming in, right? So we caught on to this new change, right? I think the solution, okay, is really that many companies should start working not solo but together. So I was in basically the innovation day that CSA ran, and David Koh, he mooted this idea that local companies should work together as part of a larger ecosystem. So they call it hunt impacts, right? So I love this idea, and I have been active talking to as many companies and so on, and organizing at least around the Amaris.AI story, because we have both AI and with cybersecurity. And many of these traditional cybersecurity companies, they lack the AI element, right? And we ourselves found that the companies and the government, right, they want full stack. They want all the solution. They are not willing to perhaps find solution A, solution B, and solution C and sew them together, because there's no time, right? They are trying to cope and trying to survive, you know, right? So they don't have this this time to say, can you tell me what is this about? Then I have to then talk to another company. Are you able to interface with each other? So I think the new frontier is actually AI, you know? And then having the AI to offer you security automation, so that you could handle much more events, many more complexity, and reduce the complexity, and then bring whatever that's in chaos into what we call like the old way of what we want it to be, you know, right? Steady, okay, right? Right. So that at least we have some time to respond and some time to actually to see, oh, gee, you know, this is what's happening, and then let's have a meeting, you know, right? If this is not factored in, that means we don't have this automation to quicken the pace of reaction, quicken the pace of analysis, right? We would never have the ability to sit down and then say, oh, okay, we'll be just run over by the attackers, right? So this is actually something that I think would be welcome, right? And yet I think it may not be totally understood. And the next thing that I want to say is that we need to move away from the earlier paradigm where we are investing in security systems or services or devices, but yet we're not very sure that they are potent and they have high efficacy, right? That they actually work, right? So I think the moment would be to validate, show, create evidence, okay, in which that things work together, okay, with different paths. All the cybersecurity systems are open and integratable instead of working in silo. So we need to change that mental model in which that get more people to talk about common enemy, you know, which are the attackers, right? Then rather than to actually hold and believe that well, my marketplace is actually defendable, and I don't think so, because at the end, there are big shifts going on. So people are moving to the cloud, and once they are on the cloud, everything is changed, right? So you don't need physical firewalls anymore. You need a different type of firewalls, right? So I think it's very exciting. Yeah. What do you think, May?
Yep, I agree. So Amaris.AI is one of the startups in this cybersecurity industry. So like you mentioned, I also think that, in the past, the traditional model is really like, one company heading or specializing in a certain tech. But right now, we really need to look at all the different companies in their specialty to come together. So as Amaris.AI, have you guys been like working together with like other companies to come up with like new projects?
Yes, indeed so, right? So we are working with companies that are stronger than us in, say, for instance, in the malware space, right? So what we were asked in the CS14 challenge is to innovate on the new space of testing AI that is detecting malware. So we have been very successful. So we have created 0 days for PDFs. We created 0 days at inserting adversarial examples into binary malware, right? So it's an early start, and have been successful. But yet the bigger space, we are not totally, we're not expert in the space of signatures and what is happening, and so on and so forth. So we are working with as many anti-malware groups as possible, okay? And we are running testing, right? So we want to learn whether what they are now doing in terms of detecting malware with AI, right, is functional, okay? And it is fast enough or efficient enough, and then they have the life cycle to support it, okay, right? So because this is a space where in the past they have not been open and people have not tested them, right? So we are creating the test technology. But maybe not everybody will want to be tested, but then we just reach out, say whoever wants to be tested, and then we can share all these test results, and then they could then take it in and create new detection mechanism. We are also developing these super duper AI malware detectors, right? Since we are testing them and we know what is not working, and the state of art now is pretty well understood, they do lack the most modern AI developments, right? So the AI is coming in quick and fast, and then you now have got AI algorithms that are very clever. It's almost like you're like talking to a human. So like GPT-3, they can create recipes, they can tell stories, and so on and so forth, right? So we now have a new unprecedented advancement of AI, but I don't think that the industry itself is following up. Right? So what we do is that working with the government and creating maybe outreach program for the user community, and then hopefully we can then get the users to explain and say that, oh, we need better defenses, right? And then we can show results that this is not working and so on. Then that would trigger the motivation for the existing cybersecurity industry to perhaps talk through, not to us, but maybe through leadership like CSA and to IMDA and to GovTech, right? And then maybe through TNB, where they are updating all the various startups on new leadership trends, right? So I think that would be one of the things that we are working on, and it is something that maybe will not happen overnight. It will take some time, okay, right? But we have already laid the initial foundation. For instance, like we are drafting up the new specification for procurement standards, right? So if you need to buy a new AI system, what are the things that are to be specified in the tender requirements for what we call a robust AI system? Then there are many issues like bias. How would you know whether your system is actually able to comply with what maybe PDPC or what all the regulators want to do? And this ethical issue of that you shouldn't have maybe a system that is running and that is biased against women, for instance, okay, right? And because all I suppose all the IT gurus are all men, and then if a very clever girl comes up, right, she may not be hired, right? That's ridiculous, right? So, okay, right? But today that is the current state. It's a real thing because we are creating systems that have been learning from the past, and the past is that they hire more men than women. Okay, right? No, right? And so you see these things that are first to be flagged out, to be understood, and then later on we then can visualize it so that you can see, is this really true? Okay, right? We put in, it is like maybe testing whether you can penetrate a database or not. No, so Metasploit is a testing tool, right? So a lot of this are things that I think I'm not very sure whether it would be welcome or not, but it was sort of like, if done together with government support, right, it would at least steady the transition to this new norm, to the uncertain environment in which that the hackers are now leading, because they have full control, right? And very quickly they will be able to generate 0 days that your systems cannot catch, right? But if we know how they do this, at least then tell all the users that there is this pending moment, of a Pearl Harbor attack, right? And then I can show you, then at least the community that are defending will be more prepared.
Right. So I believe, Prof Yu, you mentioned all these pointers, and all this contribute to likely the question to whether is it possible for startups in the cybersecurity industry to continue innovating. And because of all these various pointers, it might be harder and harder to innovate. Am I right to say that?
I suspect so. I don't know, because it's already very hard to innovate in the cybersecurity space, right? Because the space is very broad. It is matured. In the past, it was not. I remember when I first started, it was like nobody wants to be a busybody cybersecurity consultant. There isn't a word called cybersecurity, no? Okay, right? It is. At that time, I was the first person in this area, and I call myself a computer security consultant, no? Right? So
yes.
Physical, no? It's like there's a computer, right? There's no cyber at that time. There was no internet. People cannot imagine there is no World Wide Web. There is no connectivity at all. There's no internet, right? And there's no mobile phones. Okay, right? So, but now it is very different. Lots of people are getting trained. It's almost like becoming the medical profession, right? So it is. There are courses that they are running. You can now go to university and specialize in cybersecurity, right? And so in that space, once things sort of like settle down, right, it becomes more steady state, and then the innovation will be incremental. It is not so dramatic, right? So, like I remember when Nerzuk in Palo Alto, when he first brought the next generation firewall, right? So I was speaking to him, and he was so excited. He comes to Singapore very often when he was younger. Okay, right now we are talking about many years ago, right?
Okay.
And all these people, right? So there was this excitement of, oh wow, can we do this? Can we do that? And so on and so forth, right? So today, if you walk around and let's say you go to Gulfware or even in the Innovation Day, there is a whole lot of old wine in new bottle and so on and so forth. Right? So it's very hard. Now, what makes it even harder is that the big boys, the cloud super giants like AWS, Azure, Microsoft, and then you have Google, they are also into this space, right? So they are also producing products. And because of this, you will find that as a startup, you have to compete with these giants, right? So it's almost like you are running the mom and pop shop, and then sell some hamburger and whatever. And then you got this McDonald's, right? And they not only sell hamburgers, right? They will pack the thing, and then they give special offers, and then they will have cheeseburger, whatever, and so on and so forth, right? So you have to fight McDonald's, right? So today, that is what the plight of all these innovation teams and so on, okay? And making matters worse is that we see that the CISOs have not fully caught up with all the new knowledge that has been that are there, right? So for instance, there are many urgent things that need to be done because we now see quantum computer coming, and then you need now to plan for the migration and implement post-quantum cryptography, right? So we got a gap where there is a requirement that is sorely needed by the industry, okay, and the market, but the buyers and the consumers and the charge that are going to spend this money, they don't understand that there is this thing, you know? Okay, right? And in the past, it was like there's some education and so on, but now we're talking about something that really requires you to act now, and the problem is 10 years from now, right? So if you are CISO, that I may not be around 10 years from now, right? Why should I bother with this thing, right? So because there's this joke that goes around that people fire the CISOs every 1.5 years or something like that, no, right? So if he's not very sure that he'll still be around, then why would he bother with something that you have to put in long-term investment, no, 10 years from now? So I think the innovation space is very tough, but the good news is that there are many easier things to do, right? There are what we call the low-lying fruit, but it requires a total change in the innovation business model, in which that maybe the problem is not to produce a better mousetrap. Maybe the problem is actually not to fight Walmart or McDonald's, huh? Okay, right? But we have to perhaps find maybe a green way of getting rid of straws, right? That means we have to work in concert with these giants, right? Maybe that is the opportunity in which that the big problems may be actually in cloud computing, right? Okay. And the requirements are very large because everybody is going cloud first, right? They'll go cloud first before they do AI first, right?
Yep.
And then you also have all these discontinuity that is caused by maybe the enterprise has not been able to catch up, but the innovations teams, okay, and the innovators are meant to be much more agile, right? So, right, and so now you see perhaps the opportunity in which that I can build faster now. I can build an MVP much faster. I can take advantage of AI to build it much faster, and I can meet the market demands, okay, right? In which that in the past, it's like, okay, tell me the problem, and then you wait 1 year before you get the first prototype. But today, in this COVID days, they say that I need it in 3 days, right? No, and so, but how would it be done? That means it had to be cooperative innovation. Many groups may have to work together with maybe small SMEs that are already in the space of cybersecurity, but yet there's something that they couldn't solve, or very large business conglomerates, right? But I don't think that the current format, like maybe Peer 71 or whatever, where they group together entire industry, right, is working so well. Especially where what is happening is that people would talk about, here is my industry problem, right? And they will bring problems that actually has no chance of solution, no? Okay, right? And then before people could work on this problem, COVID struck, and then there's no more money to do this.
Yeah.
No? Right? But all of these quick fixes that people are throwing out, right, they actually are not secure, right? So they may be just an idea, and then so a lot of people are now working on ideas that actually will not be implemented, right? So I think we need to find a more steady stream of support for the startups, right? So for instance, if Google and say AWS extend their support network, okay, and be able to say that I have 25 of these security problems, okay, right? I lack the manpower to solve them, right? But I think it's a long shot because they are that all these, if you have a breakthrough idea, right, and it came from a startup, right, then this breakthrough idea may not be owned by themselves, right? So we have this catch-22, right? And I think a bit of tension there, and then with time, perhaps it will solve itself.
Yeah, I think that's very true in terms of like innovation. And I see that you use like a term cooperative innovation. Like that idea. Yeah. So right now in this we've been talking about like uncertain environment in these days, right? So what are some of Amaris.AI's plans, as well as like are there like any other programs that you're participating in?
Yes, one of the things that we have been asked by maybe GovTech and CSA to solve is a problem of security for building management system, for instance, right? So in the past, you have an isolated system that looks after the elevator, the lifts, and then the power system, the aircon, and so on and so forth, right? But they don't have to connect to the internet. But now it becomes that it is cheaper to use the cloud to monitor multiple buildings. That's number one. And then because of IoT, you have to connect to internet because not all the infrastructure is yours. Some of it actually belongs to the consumers. Some of it belongs to the parking system, right? That is outside, next door to you. So you may have a thermometer that is outside. You may have a weather station that's outside, right? And then they will Bluetooth and Wi-Fi to your system, and you have many cameras that's all over the place, right? So are the cameras part and parcel of building management systems? In the past, it is not quite. They belong to camera system, right? Then IT is IT system. But today, the camera system have to interact with the building management system because you want to use it to efficiently operate your lifts, right? So if there's nobody standing there, then why would you want to actually bring the lift, and stop at that place, right? So you use the camera and you see, oh, there's 25 people now standing waiting for the lift to come, right? So you send the lift down, right? And then if there is a lift accident, somebody fell down at the escalator, then the lift should stop, okay, right? But you have cameras that are monitoring it. Then there are issues like theft, physical security, and so on and so forth. Now we see this issue in which that a lot of things are now been sort of like coming back to the original circle, right? Everything is connected to everything. This is the internet of everything, right? So this is one area that I thought that real estate is now working on. And we also now see temporary usage of space, right? It could be at the atrium, it could be a booth, it could be events, and so on, okay, right? And this dynamism that people need to control the crowd, okay, handle the COVID crowding, okay, and safe distancing, and so on and so forth, are now new areas that are affecting building management systems, right? So everything is on basically a major reset, okay, right? We think that even in the integration of systems, right, you now have, for instance, something that is a little bit far-fetched. Is like, now I have a new idea, and then what is the legal contract? Who's responsible for what, right? So you will find that physical buildings now is impacting maybe legal processes and lawyers, right? So the law firm should get into this issue and also be just as dynamic. So people want to, oh, is this contract adequate? Do I need to change something, right? No, and we now get this issue of Industry 4.0. Everything is now packaged to your unique ones for your unique event, your unique space usage, right? We think that this is very novel, and it's very innovative, but the whole idea of building new AI-driven building management systems that are highly integrated and highly secure would scale overseas, right? And then you now have basically the building becoming maybe not a building that people will come in and work in, okay, but a building in which that it is the center point of interactions. Right? Then this, for instance, the Punggol Digital District is meant to be like this, a first smart town, first smart city that is designed from ground up, right? And you will find that really the physical movements may not be the center point anymore, but it is that the center point may be that what are people talking to each other about, right? So every event, maybe you want to capture the movies, and then many more people anywhere else in the world is able to participate, right? So, and then you will now see other giants coming in, like maybe it could be Lazada, it could be Grab, and whatever. But recently you see the news in which that they are not internet secure, right? They all have been having problems of this and that, right? And they said that, oh, don't worry, but actually I do worry because I don't know what happened, right? Right.
Yep.
So all of us use them, okay, right? No, right? And it's really bad news that they have not sort of like been able to manage, okay, right? So I think very exciting. There are many things. This is one of several things that we're working on. We're also working on AI and education, so which is a big space.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Prof Yu, for sharing all your pointers today on how startups and businesses, enterprises can overcome the challenges that we are facing today in this uncertain environment. Before we end the session, do you have perhaps any advice or any words of wisdom that you can share with everyone out there? Although we are in probably uncertain times, but how we can probably take baby steps or small steps to overcome this.
Yes, I do. Yeah. I've been teaching a number of courses in the traditional cybersecurity. Okay. And so recently I started to add in very advanced AI concepts, with hands-on and so on. So I've been pioneering how to teach a lot of these very complex issues with in a very easy way, using visualization and using hands-on exercises, but without requiring you to learn coding in the beginning, right? So it could be a senior executive, or you could be actually the CEO, and with a small amount of time, you can then read a lot of inputs about what is this AI about, right? Now what we see that many of the AI projects that are failing, okay, and also this inability to move in the cybersecurity space, it's perhaps related to the fact that people don't know what AI can do, what AI cannot do, and the full potential, and also the series of knowledge about how AI would not work. Okay? How AI programs or projects or data science projects, and many of them, the bulk of them in fact, have failed, okay, to deliver what they're supposed to deliver. So my advice actually is to the younger professionals, okay, right? And there's a lot of interest after I talk about it in LinkedIn, and people said that, oh, I want to learn about this. Today, I feel that it is now much more doable. You can learn something maybe in a very efficient way, right? Maybe 10 times faster than what it used to be. You're not limited by the fact that you didn't attend university and had this course before. You can learn on demand, but of course, it would be great that there is some guidance and some structure, okay, right? And we see now a lot of this now been sort of like experimented with and innovated. So I tried it, and I would say that it worked, right? We're able to teach very, very advanced concepts, things that actually they teach in PhD or master's program and so on, right? And now I have got polytechnic students running final year projects, okay, right? And they are also doing very advanced things. So I motivate them and said that let's all go and get our A++ for our projects. Okay, right?
Nice.
And so my story to the students now, get into the new space, right? The university may not be able to catch up, but you have the means to learn by yourself, right? And ask for it. No? You ask the university that because you are actually their customer, right? So the students are the customer. I said, so people should get into this issue actively, to organize and self-organize the ability to learn new things and to then find real examples of how to exploit them, right? So we should not be like sitting in boardrooms and keep on talking about the same old story, right? We should have to get into the action. And so this is actually an ending of call for action. And the call for action is learning.
Yes, learning is a never-ending journey. Great advice. Thank you, Prof. Thank you for taking time out this morning.
Thank you so much. Yeah, right.
Session.
This is a great event.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
all right,
bye-bye.
So that's the end of today's session, and hope you have some valuable takeaways. Until next time then, bye-bye.
Bye.